everybody. Welcome to Monday Morning Must Knows. My name is Merlin Ruffalo, and here are several things to pay attention to for the upcoming trading week. Now, we normally start things off with the earnings calendar. Well, this week we are going to do that exact same thing, but there's something slightly different about this week's earnings calendar. 4 times a year, there's an event. It's like Pamplona, Spain, the running of the bulls, this excitement. That is going to be the kickoff to earnings season. That's what's happening this week. Now, as you watch this earnings calendar here, not a lot is happening in the first part of the week. We have some names you might recognize, like on Monday, we have Tilray and Acuity Brands. Tuesday, you've got Bed Bath & Beyond, which a lot of people are now saying is going to go bankrupt. On Wednesday, you've got KB Homes and Infosys. Now, KB Homes is of particular interest to me because of what's going on with the housing market, with interest rates and home builders. Thursday, you've got nothing. And again, there's only 70 companies reporting this week, so it is extremely light. But lo and behold, let me get the drum roll. Dun, 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 dun. Take a peek at Friday. Bank of America, JPMorgan, Citigroup, Wells Fargo, BlackRock, United Healthcare, Delta Airlines, and there's also Bank of New York Mellon and several others. Why is this so important? Because it's the kickoff to earnings season. Now, historically, you see the beginning of earnings season is, I guess, viewed with optimism. So if these financial firms come out with really good numbers, we could see some very positive action in our markets. Now, of course, nothing's guaranteed. We don't know how they're going to react, but that has been the historical norm going back the past few years. And usually the first few weeks of earnings season are greeted with optimism, and then we start to become desensitized to those earnings. Now, why is this important? Well, I'm a supply and demand trader, and what we teach at Online Trading Academy revolves around supply and demand methodology. And right now, there are some situations in these financial stocks which do present some great opportunities from a supply and demand perspective. So, for example, let's take a look at the chart of Goldman Sachs here. Goldman Sachs, one of the major banks and financial firms out there, you can see that yellow box on the hard right edge is just traversing sideways. Now, most traders can go, meh, there's no opportunity there. It's just going sideways. Well, in reality, what we're seeing is it's trapped between a supply zone and a demand zone and has been traversing back and forth between that. Now, if you are a futures trader or an equities trader, generally you can't really make money when something just goes sideways. But if you know how to use options, you could be using spreads or iron condors or different tactics that will capitalize on a sideways moving market. So there's opportunity there, and you could potentially play the breakout by crafting yourself a strategy for a breakout to the upside of this consolidation, or even going short if it breaks down below, all of that revolving around supply and demand. In contrast, let's take a look at JPMorgan. So here you've got the chart of JPMorgan on a daily, and you can see over the past year a wide range going from right around 100 up to about 140. And on the hard right edge, we can see that it's been building strength, right? It's starting to creep towards those 52-week highs. That's overhead supply where there should be an abundance of sellers. But the more that it attacks that level, the more likely it's going to have a breakout. And again, as traders, we can craft a plan to trade above this breakout level should it happen, or maybe even capitalize on a downside move. It all really revolves around the utilization of supply and demand. If you'd like to learn more about supply and demand methodology, how to build a trading plan around a sideways market, an uptrending market, or a downtrending market, then click that link showing up on the upper right-hand corner of your screen or in the description below to register for a free class and to learn more about trading and supply and demand in all asset classes. All right, let's move on because earnings season is obviously very exciting. We'll talk more about the kickoff to that on our next week's Monday Morning Must Knows. But I want to talk about the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Jerome Powell. That's right, Mr. Jerome Powell will be giving his first official speech of 2023. Now, as we know, when he talks, he's like E.F. Hutton. People listen. Now, the presentation he's giving is not the most exciting. He will be giving a presentation or participating in a panel discussion on central bank independence that will be in Sweden. Now, many of you are going to be like, oh, in Sweden, that's on the other side of the world. It's going to be at a weird hour in the morning. Well, lucky for us, it's actually be Tuesday at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which will be slightly before the equity markets open here in the United States. So that should already have priced in the action from his comments. Now, this is important for me because Jerome Powell has a way of sneaking in a word or two about current policy, about interest rates, about maybe some reversal or spinning of their current policy going forward. And that, to me, can be very important and create a lot of volatility. Bottom line is this man and the Federal Reserve really shape the direction in which way these markets are going. And he has been telegraphing the markets are going down. He's been saying that repeatedly, expect pain, etc. Now, I don't expect comments like that from this meeting, but it will give us some insight maybe as to what he's thinking about central banks, the role they play in the economy going forward. So therefore, it's got to be part of your Monday Morning Must Knows, and that will be on Tuesday. All right, moving on down the list. We talk about inflation so often on this program, and it seems like every week there's some little piece of data about inflation. Now, the good news is it is starting to decline, and we know that through empirical evidence. We can look at these price charts, and here you have a chart of consumer price index going back into 2014. Now, if we look historically, getting to the 0.3 to 0.4% seems to be about the historical norm. That's right about here. I'll draw a little red line on there for you. But currently, the most recent number is showing at 0.1%. That's actually lower than what looks like the historical norm here for CPI. Now, again, this is only month over month change, so it's not that big of a deal from the big picture. That said, why don't we look at the big picture? As this chart depicts, we are still significantly higher than any level of inflation we've seen going all the way back into 2019. Even back into 2011, we were only around 3.5%, 4%. We're still at 7.1%, as you can see on the hard red edge there. Now, the good news is, though, we have been sloping down. A lot of this is due to what the Fed has been doing. Remember, we talked so much about the Fed unwinding their balance sheet, meaning they're selling their bond portfolio holdings, which is causing money to come out of the market, right? When they sell those bonds, they take money they borrowed to buy those bonds and they retire it. Now, when they retire that money, that removes money out of the economy, and that can impact inflation, which it looks like it's doing. We've gone from a peak of over 8% down to 7.1%, and the expectation is we're going to continue to slide back to a lower level. That's very good for the markets and may cause a Fed pivot. Now, we don't know exactly how this number is going to come out. It is going to be on Thursday at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, so 1 hour before your equity markets open, so it should already be priced in, but a lot of expectation on that specific data point this week, which would create a lot of volatility on that trading session. And that, my friends, is your Monday Morning Must-Knows. We'll see you next week.